This will be I think the seventh video, I believe, in the series for Excel 2003. I had covered a lot of different topics, but I forgot that there were some things I hadn't covered, which I covered for Office 2007 and 2010. So I thought I'll cover it for the Office 2003 Excel, as there are many people who are still watching it. So in this video, I'll try to get into some of the database functionality of Excel. Also something called Vlookup. We'll also look at pivot table and some small little functions that I've talked about in one of my question and answer video, but I'll talk about it here. So the first thing is that in Excel you can actually start creating lists. So you see, like, I have a date, position, company, and I can start creating a list. So in this case I was trying to track my job search, say for example. So I'm trying to put the date, I'm trying to put the name of the company, the resume. I have 3 different types of resume, and I'm also trying to track whether I'm getting interview calls. So there are different ways that you can create a list. And if I scroll down here and I go to the last one, and I can start typing a date or something. So say I want to put today's date or yesterday's date, 18 MAR 2013. You see, it automatically puts it in that format, 18th March. And if I start typing admin, it automatically fills it up. So I just have to hit tab or Rogers. So it automatically starts typing if you had typed the word earlier. I'm just going to highlight and delete it. And what I did is, for my date, I clicked on the top, I right clicked, and I went to format cells, and you get this window. Or you can, once you highlight, when you click on A, it highlights the whole column. You can go to format cells, and here I told it that this is a date and I want a particular format. So say I want this format, and I click OK, and you see it goes to that format. And I did the same thing for telephone number. I click on F, so it highlights the whole column. I can right click, go to format cells, and then I went to special and I said phone number. So here in North America we have the phone number in this format, so it puts it for me. So when I come down here and I start entering any number, 905 123 4567, I hit enter, it automatically formats in that format. So I don't have to work hard at putting the hyphens and the brackets. Also, if I wanted, I could enter my information in a form. So I can go to data. You may need to expand the window if you don't see this option called form, and I click it, and here I can start entering by hitting the new button, and I can start entering the information in the form, and it will show up in the Excel. So these are nice little features you can apply to it. The next thing I want to tell you about that, there's a feature in Excel that you can do sorting. Sorting means you can put things in alphabetical order. So if I click on company and I use this A to Z button, which means sort from A to Z in the alphabetical order, I click it. Now we see everything is arranged. B's are together, B's are together, and then it starts with C. So you just need to click on the top for the heading. Now if I want, I can make it Z to A, so it will put the T, which is the last character, first, and then it goes to all the way up to A. And I can click on date again, and I can do A to Z. So it will filter it by the date now. So everything is in date order, January 1st, 21st January. So it's put things in that order for me. Now there is another option called filtering. What filtering does, it helps you to get to the information you want right away, faster. So you go to data and then you click on filter and then you turn on auto filter. Now you'll get these drop down buttons for each of the columns. So say for example I wanted to see all the resume 2, so I click here and I can just say resume 2. So now I only see resume 2s. All the other ones are not there. And you might see that this resume has like a blue color on it. That means I have turned on the filter from here. And if I click here again, I can choose all. And you can filter it by multiple criteria. So I can click here and say show me resume 3s, and then I'll say show me all the CSRs, and I can say, I think there is nothing else I can do. So I only get CSRs, and I can get the resume. And I believe I go back to data, filter, and I can say show all. So now everything's back. Or you can go to individual of them and then say all. You can also do custom. So if I go to custom, I can choose and I can say show me dates which are greater than a certain date. I can put in here. So I can say greater than 14 February. So now I only get results after the 14 February 2011. And I can go back here and I can say all, or I could go to data, filter, and then choose show all. So this is a nice little feature that you can use to do filtering, and I can press the auto filter button to come back to this. Now when you have lots of records, and if I'm going down the page, so I'm using the down arrow, I lose my headings. So if I want this heading, this row, to stay here all the time, I can freeze it. So to do that, I click on the cell A2, I go to Window, and I choose the option called Freeze Panes, and you will find there is a fine line there that you don't see, but it's like a dark line underneath the row 1. Now if I go down, you'll find that that date you see is still there. So, and I can go back to Window and I can unfreeze. If I wanted to freeze the first 5 row, I click on row 6, click on Window, and then I click freeze. Now when I go down, the first 5 rows are frozen. And I can go back, Window, unfreeze. If you wanted to freeze the top row and the top column, the first column, I click on B2, click on Window, and I choose freeze. Now this column and this row, they both are frozen, but if I go sideways, I'll see that column, and when I go down, I will see the row. So depending on the direction you go, it's going to keep it. Okay. And I can go back to Window and I can unfreeze. There is also a feature by which you can split a screen. So if I click here and I go to Window and I say split, now we see that 9 rows stay there, and if I go down, it's just split the section up. Okay. And you see now the date is here and also there because I've split it. I can go to Window and I can remove split. If you ever wanted to see multiple sheets side by side, what you can do is you can go to Window and you say New Window, and it will open up a new window, and then you go to Window again, and then you can say Arrange vertically or horizontally. I'll click OK. Now we see I've got 2 of them, and I can go to a different sheet. You see now I have, it's the same file, but now I'm looking at 2 different sheets side by side. Okay. So it's under Window. And if I want, I can just click here and I can expand it. So now it's back to the regular way. And I'm just got another window open. I'm just gonna close this. Okay. So it's a nice feature if you ever wanted to look at things side by side. The next thing I want to show you is what is called pivot table, and I'm going to give you enough tools so that if you ever have to do it, you can do it on your own, and also if you ever have to do it for an exam question, you can do it. So I can go to Data and Pivot Table, and it's asking me a question that where is your data? So I already have it. It will select it for you. You don't even have to select it. And I can click Next, and it asks me for the range. Click Next. Oops, For some reason it didn't pick it up, so I'll have to choose it. When I did it earlier, it highlighted it for me, so I'm just going to choose the range. You may find that it highlights it for you. So now I've just highlighted it by using this button and highlighting it. Click next. I'm going to put it on a new worksheet and I hit finish. Now what I have to do is, with pivot table, what it does is it arranges your data in a meaningful information. So now I need to take, still I'll take my resume and I'm going to drop it in this row section. So it shows me the resume 1, 2, 3. I'll take my interview and I'll drop it in the column section. So I've got my yes and no for the interview. And I'll take the interview and I'll drop it in the data items. So now you see it's counting how many yeses I had and no's I had for each resume. So I can see my resume 3, I had more yeses to interviews, and resume 2 was really bad because I had 20 no. Now I can add a little bit more if I wanted. I can take the position and I can drop it in the row. Now you see it shows me admin A, resume 1, 2, 3, and I can see that I had more no's here, and I can see CSR, I had more yeses here. And if I wanted, I could even take the position and I can drop it in the columns. So now I've switched it, and I can again take the position, drop it back into rows. So in that sense, the simplest way, this is what you can do with the pivot table. Now I'm going to leave a copy of this file down in the link section. So if you wanted to, you could download it so you don't have to type the whole thing again. So this is called pivot table. The next thing we'll go to what's called Vlookup. I'm just going to delete this because you need to do that. What Vlookup does is it will look for an information in a range, and it will try to put something that matches that range. So say for example, this A, which is a party code, somebody took a survey, and instead of writing the whole Democratic or something like that, they chose to just write the word A. So what it will do is it will try to match it in this code, and then it will try to put the name of the party in here. So say for example 1, it will match it and it will put the word green in here. Okay, so it's very easy. So first we need to start the function. So you can click on the FX, and here we are looking for Vlookup. So you can just type VLOOK and hit go, and it didn't find it. Let's see, Vlookup, and it found it. I had to type the whole thing. Or you can click here and you can go to the lookup and references, and in here you see in the alphabetical order Vlookup, and it will always explain to you what it does. So I click OK. I'm just going to move this guy a little bit here. Now the first thing is asking me a lookup value. Which is my lookup value? Which is whatever is in this cell C2, because in Excel we always use the cell reference, we don't type what's in there. And then next line it says what is your table array, which is where is your information. So I'm just going to point to this H and also highlight I. That means H and I column all the way to the bottom. Okay, and then I click in the column index. So it means it's asking me, okay, so when it matches, do you want to type what's in the first column or do you want to type what's in the second column? So in this case, I wanted to type something from the second column, which is green or reform. Now I come to the last line, and it gives you the information here on the bottom. It's asking you, do you want an exact match? You can type false. So I type the word false for exact match. If I wanted kind of a close match, I can use the word true. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And it puts the word democratic there. I look for the fill handle, left click and hold it, and I drag it down. Now you see green, which is 1, 7 is middle class party, and below it's got the whole thing with A. So A is Democratic and B is Republican. So this is called Vlookup. It looks for things in a vertical direction. And there is another function called HLOOKUP, which goes in the horizontal way. So if I had a table going that way, then I would use horizontal lookup. So that's VLOOKUP. Very easy, very straightforward. So we'll move on. And here I'll teach you what is known as a function called concatenate. What concatenate does is that it will take your first name and last name and it will join it together in this cell. And you can do it with multiple cells, for example. So I can click on the FX and I'm going to look for concatenate. A lot of time if you just type concat and click here and I'm going to choose all and I hit go, now you see it finds it. So just make sure that you click all when it searches for it. So concat, and there it is. I click OK and I'll say what is my text 1. I'll say this cell is my text 1. Then I go to the next text, text 2, and text 2 is this cell where I have my last name, and I click OK and there it is. It joins it together and I can do fill handle down. Now if you wanted to put a space in there, I can click here, click on FX, so it will start the concatenate because in that cell I have concatenate. Go to text 2, remove that and put a space. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I go to text 3 and I click on the last name and I click OK. So there is a space. I'm going to fill handle down. Okay. So the same way, so it's like if I type a new name, I click here and I use fill handle, it will do it for that too. So this is known as concatenate. I've covered some of these in my question and answer, but I just want to cover it here so that I can add it to this learning tutorials itself rather than the Q&A. Another function you can use is what is known as COUNTIF. So I'll just click here. I'll click in the FX, type the word count, and I'll just choose all and hit go. And there is a function called COUNTIF, and I'll click OK. COUNTIF means that in a range, so I'm clicked in the range, so I'm going to highlight a range. In this particular range, look for the word Amir and see how many times that word Amir has been typed. I click OK and it says there is only one. So if I click here and I type Amir, hit enter, it makes it 2. And if I type Amir and I put a space and I hit enter, it doesn't count it because the space will make it difficult. So if I come here, double click, remove the space, hit enter, now the count is 3. So this is known as COUNTIF. Another one I want to talk about is something like this, where you have your names together and you want to split it up and there is a comma in the middle, or there could be anything. So you can highlight, you can even highlight the whole column if you needed to. In this case I'll just do this and I'm just going to remove this. So I'm going to highlight it. I go to data, text to columns, and it's asking me, are you using some kind of a comma in the middle, delimited, and this gives the explanation. I said yeah, and click next. And now it's asking me, what are you using? Are you using a comma, using a semicolon? So whatever it is that you're using, you have to choose that. If you had something else like a semicolon or a colon, then you just type it there. In this case I need comma, and you see in the bottom it all shows you that it's already taking care of things. Click next, and you don't need to do much here. Click finish, and you can also choose where you want to put it. I can click here and I can say, you know what, put it in H, and then I click finish. So now it's put the information here and it's split it up. We'll go to the next one. Is called a subtotal. I don't think so I've covered this in the other videos, so I'll do it here. So the subtotal is, I've got some names of people and they are repeating that they are doing sales in different regions, north, south, east, west, and subtotals allows us to do subtotals faster. So, but the only trick to subtotals is you want to make sure certain things are grouped together. Like in this case, the regions are grouped together. And how do you group it together? You click on the region and you can sort it A to Z or Z to A. So I click on the cell A1. I always like to be in the corner. I go to data, subtotals. It highlights it. Now, do I want a subtotal after each change in name? No, my regions are grouped together, so I'm going to say region. And I want a summation of sales, which is fine. I click OK. Now there is north total, south, east, west, and the grand total. I'll click here. I'll go back to data, subtotals, and I can say remove all. Now if I click on name and I do sort A to Z, now you see the names are grouped together. So now when I go back to data, subtotals, I'm going to say at each change in name, summation of sales, click OK, and there it is. It is under tools. It's been a while since I used 2003, but you just have to expand it. And there is macros. I'm going to say record a new macro. Give it a name. Always good to give it a meaningful name. You can also put a shortcut there so that you can hit the control and that alphabet for shortcut. So I can say control and I'll say L. So you don't want to use a shortcut that could be used somewhere else, like control C is used for copy. And you can store this in all the workbooks or just this workbook. I'll click OK. Now we started recording and I can click here and say I want to make the font size different. Want to make it bold. I want to expand the columns. I want to put a color, and I can even center it. And now I can stop the macro. Now if I go to say sheet 1 and I'll scroll up and I click here and I'll go back to tools, macro, click on the word macros. There's the first macro one I just created and I click run, and you see the thing started to change. So this is the whole idea of macro, that you're trying to repeat something so you can record it, then you can keep doing it. So if wherever I go, if I go to Vlookup, I click here, I can even press Control and L, that will do the shortcut, and you see it started to change. And I'll talk about one last thing and end this video, which is about protecting your sheet or your workbook. So say I wanted to protect my information. Say I didn't want anybody to change this. So I can highlight it, right click, go to format cells, and under protection make sure that there is the lock button on. Okay. Now say for example I highlight these two and I'll go to right click, format cells, and I'll remove the locked and I click OK. Okay, so these will be locked, this won't be. Now I need to put a password on it. So I go to tools, protection, and I can choose to protect the workbook or just protect the sheet. So I'll just do this protect sheet, and there's a password. I'll put 123, and you see up here it says a check mark. It says protect worksheet and contents of locked cells. And then you can also look here, you see you can control what people can do. So you can choose, put a check mark, what can be allowed to do. So I can click OK, put the password again, and I click OK. Now if I click here and I try to enter, it gives me an error message. But if I click here and I try to enter, I can enter here. So that's the idea behind protecting your worksheets. So you can lock certain cells and protect it so those places people cannot enter. Hope this was useful. Thank you for watching. Position, company, and I can start creating a list. So in this case I was trying to track my job search, say for example, so I'm trying to put the date, I'm trying to put the name of the company, the resume. I have 3 different types of resume, and I'm also trying to track whether I'm getting interview calls. So there are different ways that you can create a list. And if I scroll down here and I go to the last one and I can start typing a date or something. So say I want to put today's date or yesterday's date, 18 MAR 2013. You see it automatically puts it in that format, 18th month. If I wanted, I could enter my information in a form. So I can go to data. You may need to expand the window if you don't see this option called form, and I click it, and here I can start entering by hitting the new button, and I can start entering the information in the form, and it will show up in the Excel. So these are nice little features you can apply to it. The next thing I want to tell you about that, there's a feature in Excel that you can do sorting. Sorting means you can put things in alphabetical order. So if I click on company and I use this A to Z button format, and I did the same thing for telephone number. I click on F, so it highlights the whole column. I can right click, go to format cells, and then I went to special and I said phone number. So here in North America we have the phone number in this format, so it puts it for me. So when I come down here and I start entering any number, 905 123 4567, I hit enter, it automatically formats in that format. So I don't have to work hard at putting the hyphens and the brackets. Also, this will be I think the 7th video, I believe, in the series for Excel 2003. I had covered a lot of different topics, but I forgot that there were some things I hadn't covered, which I covered for Office 2007 and 2010. So I thought I'll cover it for the Office 2003 Excel, as there are many people who are still watching it. So in this video, I'll try to get into some of the database functionality of Excel. Also something called Vlookup. We'll also look at pivot table and some small little functions that I've talked about in one of my question and answer video, but I'll talk about it here. So the first thing is that in Excel you can actually start creating lists. So you see, like I have a day March, and if I start typing a admin, it automatically fills it up. So I just have to hit tab or Rogers. So it automatically starts typing if you had typed the word earlier. I'm just going to highlight and delete it. And what I did is, for my date, I clicked on the top, I right clicked, and I went to format cells, and you get this window. Or you can, once you highlight, when you click on A, it highlights the whole column. You can go to format cells, and here I told it that this is a date and I want a particular format. So say I want this format, and I click OK, and you see it goes to that